Welcome to Connections. I'm your host, April Healy, and I'm sitting here with my good friend, Jessica Garrett. She is a third-year Revival Group pastor for Bethel Atlanta School of Supernatural Ministries. Hi, Jessica. Welcome.
Hey, April. It's good to be here.
Thanks. I'm so glad you're joining us.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us how you first got to Bethel Atlanta School of Supernatural Ministry.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a crazy story. Actually, we'll back up and tell you how I got to Atlanta and then how I got here. So I grew up in a really small town in Tennessee and went to college there, didn't leave. My senior year of college, just really decided that I had to make a change. So I actually attended the Passion Conference that's hosted in Atlanta every year. And they were talking about sex trafficking and how many people were still enslaved, even in America. So that just really shook me up.
And you were 18 at this point?
Yeah, I was 18, senior in college, accounting major, about to go for my MBA.
And so senior in college, you were 22 then?
Yes.
I was thinking in high school.
Yeah.
22 or 23?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right. So, but still super young, had no idea what I was about to get myself into. But I applied for an internship in Atlanta and headed here. I graduated in May and then headed here in August. Moved in with somebody, an older couple that I didn't really know. They had a basement apartment they let me live in for free, which was incredible.
Oh, wow. That's so nice.
Yeah. And then interned for an organization called Nightlight for about 6 months and then continued volunteering with them till the following August. So that year was amazing. And it was such a crash course for me because I grew up Baptist and just had a lot of traditions and religious stuff attached to my beliefs and just had no idea that the Holy Spirit was super active and that God was talking to us, all the time, and that I could tap into that and tap into healing. And so the organization that I worked with was a Holy Spirit-led ministry, and we were frontline. So every Friday night we would go out from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. a lot of the time.
Wow.
On the street and in the clubs. And so It was just culture shock at every turn for me, but I learned so much, and I really saw God move really powerfully in that organization. I saw my first healing in a strip club bathroom. It was incredible.
Awesome.
The lady we prayed for had back issues. She could barely stand up. And so we would always, when we would go into a club, we were either in the bathroom or in the dressing room. We were never on the floor, just to hang out with them, get to know them, pray if they wanted us to. She couldn't stand up. So we started praying for her. And I saw her, she was kind of hunched over, and just watched her gradually as we were praying stand up and move around and be able to bend and move. And it was just incredible. And from that point, I knew I've seen too much. I could never go back,
Yeah.
So that was just a super great year. Unfortunately, the organization kind of fizzled in the next August. And from there, my life just kind of got a little crazy. I had put a lot of my identity into working for this organization and just didn't really know who I was, still super young, like 23, 24, and just kind of got lost for the next couple of years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, and just kind of felt myself going on like a downward spiral. So fast forward a couple years later, I am probably at the lowest point in my life, I would say, and ended up at, I think it was the only worship night we had at the ABC building on like a Saturday, and ended up there, felt the Lord tell me, I want you to go to school starting in 2 weeks, I think. And I was super broke and had no way of doing it. And he also said, and I want you to quit your job. I was full-time nannying at that time and not really loving it, but it was a living.
The bills.
Yeah. So I did not quit my job because it didn't make any sense to me. And I did apply for school and started asking for money, fundraising the best I knew how. I had never done that before, and was not getting any money in. And, time was ticking away. A week later, still had no money, was sitting in church on Sunday morning and felt the Holy Spirit say, hey, I told you to quit your job. Super gently, but just reminding me of what he had said a week before. Like, you did it halfway kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, I just knew what I had to do. And I emailed my boss, which is sitting in church, which I don't recommend, and let her know like I needed to start transitioning out. I wanted to honor them and give them time to find somebody else, but what I needed to do. And they were actually really great to me and understood that it was just a point in my life that something had to change. And literally 30 minutes after I sent that email, money started coming in, which was incredible. And so then I think I had like 4 or 5 days before the final deposit was due, and got most of it, but still had a couple $100. And it's like 3 p.m. The Monday school was supposed to start. Still was missing like an odd amount of money. And Jen and Michael Coots, who are missionaries from our church in Mexico now, were already in Mexico at this point and sent me out of nowhere the random amount that I needed. It was like $362 or something. And so I got to go to school that night, and it was just so cool. It's the best story. And really just remember feeling like so over the moon, and that so right. I felt so seen.
Yeah.
Then
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you got to school and went through first year, what was one or some of the most standout things that felt like that you got that just changed your whole world?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, and super major in first year for a lot of people, but the whole identity piece, like who am I and how does God see me, just really changed my world, because I tend to perform. That's what I go to get approval or to have gain favor. And just realizing, wow, it's not about what I can do. It's about who I am and what gifts I have. And that really just changed everything for me. Yeah.
Wow. And even if you had no gifts, right? It's just about who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. And now that you're on staff, what would you say to any of the students going through first, second, or third year? Like, what would you tell them to look forward to?
Yeah. I think that a key piece is to just be faithful and be obedient and continue showing up. And I feel like a lot of times we expect breakthrough immediately. I'm here. What are you going to give me? But I think that there's a reward when you put in the time and you put in, you're just listening and you're being present, and following the Holy Spirit. So, I mean, something that I looked forward to through all my years was almost like the last couple months, and just knowing that I was going to see a change in myself and a change in what was going on in my world. So it's worth it, and it's worth the time, even when you might be frustrated with the commitment or
any of the because all this inner healing stuff comes up, and you're like, oh yeah, nope, I signed up for this.
Or I thought I dealt with that, and the Lord's like, oh, something else. So it's just so worth it to put in the time.
So one of the things you talked to me about was where you felt like you've had a tendency also to be a perfectionist in your life, and how the Lord's like walking you through that in this season. Do you have any tools that he's given you, or just revelations he's given you to get out of that perfectionist cycle?
I tend to look at a situation as a whole, and then just kind of panic if it's not perfect. So something that the Lord is really teaching me is to be present and listen to what he's doing right now in this moment. And that may seem silly sometimes. What I think should be the next step is not always the next step.
Right.
So just really tuning myself to listen to what the Holy Spirit is saying, and knowing what my responsibilities are, have changed a lot of how I approach situations or tasks. Really relieving some of the pressure off, because nothing's going to be perfect always.
Right. I know. Even though it
would be nice. It will never be super perfect. So,
Wow, that's great. I like it. Well, Jessica, thanks so much for joining us. I loved having you on the show, and just hearing all about how the School of Ministry has changed your life. And it's so good to hear you and get to know you. So thanks so much for joining us. And you guys, thanks so much for joining us too. And I love that you got to hear all about Jessica. And join us again next time.